So yeah, it's easy to miss these little things, but sometimes you just need to ask for help, and when that help comes, you got to take it, accept it with open arms. Right, first job I've got to change a ball valve in a cold water storage tank. So head torch on. Sorry for blinding you lot. Oh, I tell you what, sometimes a head torch, I've had this sitting in my van for so long, but you just underestimate how handy it comes. I haven't got to worry about using my another hand, one hand trying to hold on to things, another hand trying to shine the torch in the right place. Whack the head torch on and I can just see wherever I need to go. So cold water storage tank is there. I've got ball valve and stuff here. I'm gonna just see what tools I need, then I'll go down there, grab my spanners and grips out, and then we'll get that changed. Let's go over and take a look. Okay, so here's the ball valve. I think they said something broke off. I'm guessing it was the spout at the top which is broken off, so that was just gushing water out. So they've just turned it off on the main stopcock. I brought one with me. Oh, there's no floorboards here either, so I'm just literally making sure I don't go through the ceiling. So got myself a new type 2 ball valve. Let's get that swapped over. Right, that's the new ball valve on. Let's turn the water on and hope that we don't have any leaks. That's a good sign. It's filling. Lovely stuff. So I'm just going to wait for that to fill up, and then I'm just going to check that connection there, make sure we don't have any leaks there. Right, that's all full. Nothing is dripping there. So that's good. Right, get me out of this loft. Okay, so this next job, I'm going to, tenants called me up saying that when they got home, I think yesterday or the other day, the radiators were hot and no one would be running the heating. So I'm suspecting diverter valve. I've got it with me. Let's go and see if it is. Okay, so yeah, it is a diverter valve. Just put my hand on the flow pipe, ran a hot tap, and that flow pipe is getting hot. So let's get the case off and have a look inside to see what the condition of it is. So I've just gotten the motor up. And yeah, you can see all the goo on there. So that's been leaking, and inside there, yeah, it's a bit wet. So that's been leaking and seals have gone in there. So it's obviously letting heat going down the flow pipe rather than just going to the hot water. Just for the safe side, I am going to change both the motor and the cartridge altogether. Boiler's all been drained out, expansion vessel's been recharged. Now let's get cracking with this divert cartridge. So you might have seen this on one of my other previous videos. So it's a cartridge removal tool that I got from FC Boiler Space. So this literally just sits on there like that. So it just makes it a little bit easier. You just need to get a 13mm either open-ended spanner or a socket or whatever to sit on top of that, and then that will crack it open. But it just makes it easier than trying to get your grips onto there and potentially chewing that up. So let's get that out and let's get the new one in. So there you go. So that's something, you just get a 13mm socket on the end of there. So I've still got a bit of loft insulation in my throat, I think, from that last job. And that just comes out so much more easier. There's going to be a bit of water in there, so I'm just going to let that glug out. And then I'll wind the cartridge out, and the new one, band stock, and a new motor as well. So that's the old cartridge next to the new one. So first time you guys come across this, don't worry, that is the right cartridge, because the old one used to have this little plastic bit on the bottom. If you imagine, if you were to break that off, I don't know if it breaks off, but it's basically that is all you're using now. So the new one is literally just that brass bit without the plastic. Now the plastic can sometimes break off. I've been lucky. If it breaks off, you then either got to dig it out from there, or you got to undo the connection from under the flow valve, and then you can bash it up to get the broken bits out. But I was lucky, this came out in one piece. So new one, just greased up the O-rings, and yeah, just get that back in. What I also do whilst I'm winding it in is the little spindle in the middle. If you press it in, it just helps relieve the pressure, because it's trying to push down the flow pipe, which has obviously been isolated. So if you press that in, it will then allow the water, whatever water is left in there, for that pressure to sort of go around the plate or wherever it needs to go. So it makes it easier when you're winding it in. So let's get that back in, change the motor over, repressurize it, and just test it's all working okay. Okay, boiler back up to temperature pressure. New diverter cartridge is in, so no leaks on there. Let's fire it up, and what I normally do, I just put it on heating mode low, just so it allows it to get rid of any air inside it. Obviously it means that we are going to get a little bit of heat going down the flow pipe, but once that's all gone and it's all aired out, I mean, you can hear a little bit of air in the pump already at the moment. So once that airs out, we should be all good. Right, that's another breakdown done. My suspicions were correct. It was the diverter valve. The motor, I reckon, was probably okay, but just on the safe side, I'd just change it, because there's no point doing half of it and then leaving the other half only to get a recall later on. So yeah, that's all swapped over. It's all working. Apologies about the wind noise, but it is what it is. And let's go on to the next one. Okay, so got ourselves a Green Star 28i Junior. Landlord's called me up today. This boiler, he sent me a video, and it was giving an ignition lockout fault, and the tenants have been complaining that the water was going hot and cold, hot and cold. So initially I suspected it might be the plate, but when I saw the video for ignition lockout, I reckon it may be block condense. So I'm gonna fire it up and see what it does. They've also been reported of the pressure dropping, so we're going to see what's causing the pressure drop, whether it's the PRV or if there's anything else leaking inside the boiler. But firstly, is it even on? Yeah, it is on. Let's run a tap. Okay, so it's fired up. It's rectified. It's saying it's going to, keeps going to ignition lockout, so can't hear the bubbling, so I don't know if it's the condense. Let's get the case off. I mean, that does look pretty blocked up in there. Yeah, I reckon it is probably block condense. It's been blocking up over time. Look at that. That's all chocker. So let's get that condense unblocked first, because I reckon that's going to be the first problem with the ignition lockout. There we go. So condense has been emptied. All that sediment was blocking up the discharge for the condense. As it was coming down, it was all just sitting down at the bottom there and not allowing it to go up then out there. There's probably a little bit of it seeping out, so it wasn't locking out every single time, but you can see where it was blocking up, probably about up to there, something like that. It was slowly backing out into the main heat exchanger, causing it to lock out. So I've cleared that out, gonna run it again, and then that should sort it out. As long as it doesn't lock out again, there's nothing else really that needs to be investigated on this one. So I just want to do a follow-up little video on the job that I went to yesterday. It was the Worcester 28i Junior, where we had the blocked condense trap.
So initially I thought that's what the problem was. I cleaned out the condense trap and the boiler was running fine, no problems. But something was telling me, too easy, it's too easy. And lo and behold, I had a call last night from the landlord saying that the problem's happening again. So I went back there this morning and they said it was specifically happening when the tenants were using the shower upstairs. So I went upstairs, ran the shower, and the first thing I noticed that most of the jets were blocked up. So the flow of water wasn't actually coming through enough. And I went back down to the boiler to have a look at it, and it basically kept going off, coming back on, going off, coming back on. So initially I thought it might be an issue with the flow rate. So obviously because there's not enough flow of water going through, the boiler's not recognizing that there's enough flow going through. So I took the shower head off and let it run clearly. It ran for longer, but again, when it was simmering down when it was modulating down, the flame just kept going out. So then turned it off, I stripped it all out and had a look at the gas tube, the bearing plate, the electrodes. Now the customer said that the boiler had been serviced. I'm starting to sweat now. The customer said that the boiler had been serviced back in April. So when I inspected all the components, it's had a new gas tube, it's had a new bearing plate, and the electrodes are new as well. And the red seal was fine as well. So there was no issues there. So I've put it all back together, put it into service mode and chucked my analyzer in. Fluid integrity is fine, and when I put into maximum rate, the analyzer readings were fine as well. It was reading 9.8% CO2, which is spot on for what it asked for. As soon as I put it into minimum rate, flame locks out. Literally, it just goes out. It just would not stay lit. So I'm racking my brains at this point. I've got a bit of a mind block and I'm not sure what it could be because I've inspected the obvious. Obviously the case is off, so it's getting enough flow of fresh air as well. So I know it's not going to be anything to do with a gas and air mixture or anything to do with the flue. So in times like this, look, we all need to ask for help. So I called up one of my friends. His name's Neil. He actually works for Worcester Bosch. And I was like, Neil, look, I don't know. I'm literally at a standstill. And it's at this point, he gave me that little bit of information which got me out of trouble. He said, check the gas valve. He said he's had it before where the gas valve's been faulty and on low flame, it just doesn't allow enough gas through. Either that or there might be shale or black iron dust or anything caught up in it. He said, before you do any of that, just try adjusting the minimum setting on the gas valve. Keep turning the minimum setting clockwise to increase the amount of gas that it's letting through and see if it stays lit. So I did it half a turn or quarter turn, still nothing. Another quarter turn, still nothing. Did it a few more times, stays on. Let it run for a bit and I was like, right, okay, it's staying on, it's not locking out. And it was sounding healthier as well. I don't know if you guys know, but when you work on boilers for a certain time, you notice these little sounds and you know when something's not right and you know when something's starting to sound a little bit better. So it's weird, but I did that and then I put my analyzer in and the CO2 readings were down to about 6.6%. And that's after me having adjusted it. So now I kept adjusting it and I got it up to 8.8% CO2. And then I put it back into maximum rate and that obviously tweaked that up to about 10.2. So I adjusted that back down again to 9.8, put it back into minimum rate, and that stayed at 8.8 again. So now my minimum and maximum rates were spot on and the boiler was staying on, no problems. Then took out of service mode, went upstairs, ran the shower and just let it run while I was packing up and the boiler just stayed on absolutely fine. No problems, no issues whatsoever. So moral of this little speech is that sometimes it's easy to miss the little things because we're so, overcomplicating the situation because we're so used to dealing with, electrodes, gas tubes, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. You miss the little things. And the fact that it had been serviced recently, it just goes to show that whoever serviced it last time, well, they probably didn't put it into service mode. They probably just ran a hot tap, took their readings, and obviously they've changed the parts and everything, which is fine, but they can't have put it into service mode because if they did put it into service mode, they would have known that, okay, maximum is fine. When I'm putting to minimum rate, it's knocking the flame out. So yeah, it's easy to miss these little things, but sometimes you just need to ask for help. And when that help comes, you got to take it, accept it with open arms. And I've learned something new today. So now this is another thing in the memory bank. If I come across a similar sort of problem on any boiler, not just a Worcester, on any boiler, I'm going to remember, right, let's check the gas valve settings, make sure it's been adjusted correctly, tweak it, this, that, the other before jumping to conclusions. So I hope that information helps you guys out who work on Worcesters or boilers in general, or do servicing and repairs. Take it on board, run with it, and remember, learn from my mistakes, or learn from, you know, what I'm coming across as well, because I'm learning from other people as well, and I'm just here to share the knowledge about. So enjoy.
Basin taps, kitchen tap. So for customer here, we're trying to save on additional work and additional costs. So the only thing I could do to change this to a mixer tap was offer the option of a kitchen tap, so that it meets the 180 centers on the basin, and we can still mix the hot and cold, because they're struggling to obviously get it, the water's too hot out of the hot, and they basically want it to be able to mix it so that they can just use a nice flow of comfortable temperature water. We looked at the option of changing this, but it's proving to be too costly, so we're going to try this out, give this a go. If it works, it's not stupid, is it, if it works? But yeah, it's just trying something, real life stuff, so going to give that a go. Right, new mixer tap is on. So luckily it doesn't overspill from the basin, the spout doesn't come too far forward, so there's no oversplash or anything like that. But now I need to have a form of mixing the hot and cold. There's the old pillar taps, so I'll get rid of those. That's all working, job done.